Hey YouTube, this is Philly J with Different Dimension Gaming, coming at you with the first video of 2025, and I figured the best way to start the new year is with a deck I've been having a lot of fun with, Paleo Spright. Now both Paleozoic and Spright have been meta in their independent time frames, but they never got a chance to see the meta when they were merged together. So I thought it would be a good time to reveal how good the deck can work with the consistency tools that you have available to you. So let's dive in. We're going to start with all of our Spright cards, and we're going to play 3 copies of Spright Blue. Now all of the Sprights have a specific summoning condition that you can use. They're all optional. If you either control a level 2 rank 2 or level 2 link 2, you can special summon them from your hand. In the case of Spright Blue, it is level 2 rank 2, and when it is special summoned, it can search for a Spright monster from your deck to your hand. And important to note that none of the Sprights can search themselves. So a really great starter for your deck. Pump out those Sprights as much as possible to make those rank 2 link 2s. We're going to play 3 copies of Spright Jet. Now this one, if you control a level 2 rank 2, you can special summon it from your hand, and when it's summoned, it adds a Spright spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So a really common combo with this deck is Blue Search Jet, Jet Search Starter, and you continue your combos from there. Then we're playing 1 copy each of Spright Red, Spright Carrot, and Spright Pixies. Now Pixies is kind of a flex spot. You don't have to play it, but I play it because it's nice to have those attack point boosts when you need them. So Spright Red, when you control a level 2 link 2, you can summon it from your hand, and when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can tribute one other Spright to negate the effect, and then if you tributed a rank 2 link 2, you can also destroy the monster that you negated. Spright Carrot has the same summoning condition, and it negates a spell or trap as opposed to a monster, with the same tributing another Spright, and if you tribute a rank 2 link 2, you destroy the card that you negate. And finally, Spright Pixies, if you control a level 2 rank 2, you can special summon it from your hand. You can only summon it once per turn. They all have that same condition as well. If you summon them once, you can only summon them once that turn. But of course, you can normal summon one and continue your combos from there. But for Pixies, the rest of its effect, if you have a level 2 rank 2 link 2 that's battling an opponent's monster, you can discard Pixies from your hand, and your monster gains that monster's attack. So it's kind of an honest for rank 2 link 2s, kind of in that same sense, because you're just going to gain the opponent's attack so that yours is always larger. And that's it for your Spright monsters. Pretty small lineup as Spright has always been, but we're also playing 3 copies of Spright Starter. Now, as it is in the name, it is the best starter in your deck, because it special summons a Spright monster from your deck. And then you lose life points equal to its attack, which is fine because all the Sprights that you want to summon with this card have very small attack points to begin with. And then after this effect resolves, you are locked into level 2 rank 2 link 2s, so there's no going into access code if you're going second and going for game. You have to confine yourself to the summoning conditions. And then for the final pieces of this Spright package, I am playing 1 copy of Gamma Burst and 1 copy of Double Cross. So Gamma Burst works a lot like Pixies, except that it gives all of your level 2 rank 2 link 2s an additional 1400 attack points. And then if it's in the graveyard, you can banish it from the graveyard to target a level 2 rank 2 link 2 you control. It gains 1400 until the end of your opponent's turn, and that effect, you can only use one of the effects of Gamma Burst per turn. You cannot use both in the same turn. And then Spright Double Cross, you target a monster on the field or in either graveyard, and then activate one of the following effects. You can either attach that monster to an Xyz monster that you control, has to be a rank 2. You can place it in a zone that a link monster points to, a link 2 specifically. and you can only use one Spright double cross per turn. So it is kind of like a snatch steal / change of heart kind of an effect, or it's really good spot removal, especially if your opponent is playing something with really good removal like Kashtira. You can just activate double cross, slip it under your gigantic Spright, problem solved. That's it for your Spright package. 14 cards, very small Spright package, but we have to make room for all of our Paleo traps. But before that, let's talk about some of the generically good cards we can use in this deck. So for the first monster we're going to talk about playing 3 copies of Iperia. So this card, when it's summoned, normal or special summoned once per turn, draw a card, which is a great effect to have. You know, if your hand's not that great, you can normal summon it, draw a card, and worst case scenario, if you open Iperia and a Spright, it baits a Nash out of your opponent's hand. And then a friend put me on this package, and I'm very happy about it. We're playing 3 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast and the 1 opening of the Spirit Gates. Now, Dark Beckoning Beast is very good in this deck because it is a level 2 and it gives you access to a second normal summon. So Dark Beckoning Beast, when it is normal summoned, specifically normal summoned, you can add 1 card that mentions one of the 3 sacred beasts from your deck to your hand, and then it gives you an additional normal summon that turn. Now this works in tandem with your opening of the Spirit Gates, because when it's activated, you can add 1 monster from your deck to your hand that mentions one of the sacred beasts. So it's Dark Beckoning Beast, search Spirit Gates, search Dark Beckoning Beast, and you've got your 2 level 2s to go into your first ranking or link place. Second effect of opening of the Spirit Gates is you can discard a card to special summon a Fiend with 0 attack, 0 defense from your graveyard. And that, again, is really good for follow-up if you need to get a level 2 to get your Spright plays rolling. Very solid package, very happy it's included in the deck. And then for just the last generic card, 1 copy of Called by the Grave, deal with those pesky hand traps that are running rampant around all the time. For the Paleo traps, we are playing quite a few because this deck does need follow-up, and the Paleo traps give us that, as well as really good spot removal. So first, we're going to play 3 copies of Paleozoic Spright. This card, you can discard a Paleozoic card, then draw 2 cards, and all the Paleo effects have the same second effect, where if a trap card is activated, you can summon them from your graveyard as a normal monster. Aqua, water, level 2, 0 attack, 1200 defense, and they are unaffected by monster effects. And they get banished when they leave the field. And it's important to know that all of the Paleo traps that summon themselves from the graveyard are soft once per turn. So unless I'm misunderstanding the ruling, you can summon 2 or 3 off of a single trap activation. If I'm wrong about that, someone please correct me in the comments. Then we're going to play 3 copies of Canadia. I always want to call it Candina. Target a face-up monster your opponent controls changes to face-down defense position. Now that's really good for spot removal, especially in something against something like Ryzeal, where if you take away their body on the board, you kind of brick up their plays. Or something like Malice, because you can't link with a face-down monster. That's just not how it works. So again, really good spot removal for something in Spright that needs kind of a turn or 2 to get itself really going. We're playing 3 copies of Deinonychus. This when you target a face-up card on the field, discard a card, and banish that target. Again, very, very good spot removal. And then for the last 3 I'm playing 3 copies of Paleozoic Oleonoids. This one, target a spell trap on the field, destroy it. Again, good spot removal. It's just an MST that gets you all of your Paleos rolling in the graveyard. Very, very powerful. And then for the 2 I'm playing 2 copies of Hallucigenia. This one, target a face-up monster on the field if the attack and defense become halved until the end of the turn. Again, very good, especially if you can pair it with something like your Gamma Burst, because it just helps you get over those larger monsters. 2 copies of Morella. Send a face-up trap card from your deck to the graveyard. It's a foolish burial for the deck. Again, gets your plays rolling, gets you that body engraved so you can start rolling with your Paleo plays, start going into some of your better rank 2s. And then the 2 one-ofs that I'm playing 1 copy of Eldonia and 1 copy of Liancolia. Eldonia, target a face-up monster on the field that gains 500 attack and defense until the end of the turn. Not a huge boost, but it does enable some of your other plays. You could totally swap this out for another Hallucigenia or another Morella if you so please. And Liancolia, target a 1 banished card, return it to the graveyard. Not super important, but you know, gets you a Paleo back in grave if you need one to continue with your plays. And again, this could be swapped out for either of the other 2 or a second Eldonia if you so please. That's it for the main deck. Crisp and clean, 40 cards. Let's talk about the extra deck. For starters in the extra deck, playing 2 copies of Gigantic Spright. Now this is a very, very good card in this deck for 2 reasons. 1, you detach a material from any monster that you control. Doesn't have to be gigantic, it could be literally any Xyz that you control, and you summon any level 2 from your deck. So it does enable your plays with something like Hyperia, and then it also locks both players into level 2 link 2 rank 2s, so your opponent can't hit you with something like a Nibiru or specifically a certain kind of hand trap that will summon itself if it's over a level 2. The second effect of Paleo Spright is also very powerful because you can use a rank 2 or a link 2 as part of Gigantic Spright's summoning material. And if you do, Gigantic Spright's attack becomes doubled, so you suddenly got a 3200 attack position rank 2 monster, and pair that with something like Gamma Burst or Cat Shark, it becomes a gigantic monster, no problem. We're also playing 2 copies of Paleozoic Opabinia. Now this is one of those cards that I wasn't sure about playing until I started playing it, and now that I realize how good it is, this card is absurd. So again, just needs 2 level 2 monsters. It is unaffected by other monsters' effects. You can activate Paleozoic trap cards from your hand, which is bonkers good, especially with something like your Pekaya that is just Pot of Greed. And then if it has a trap card as a material, you can detach a monster from it, and then you can search any Paleozoic trap card from your deck to your hand, and you can continue your plays from there. Again, very, very good card. Very strongly recommended. I would say this is actually a mandatory card to play in the extra deck. I'm also playing 1 copy of Paleozoic Anomalocaris. Now, I don't summon this one very often, but when I do, it comes up very importantly. So it needs 3 or more level 2 monsters. It's unaffected by other monster effects. Once per turn, if a trap card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can excavate the top card of your deck. So take the top card of your deck, flip it over. If it's a trap card, add it to your hand. If it's not, it goes to the graveyard. And then once per turn, during either player's turn, if it's got a trap card as material, you can detach a material to destroy 1 card on the field. So very utility faithful card. It's not something I use a lot, but when it comes up, it really, really comes up. And then for the generic rank 2s, we're playing the 2 copies of Totally Awesome, because we got to get those negates in there somehow. Totally Awesome needs 2 Aqua monsters, which is perfect because that's all your Paleo traps. You can attach a material from this card, special summon 1 frog monster from your deck. We're not playing any frogs. 0 frogs here, except for this one. When your opponent activates a spell, trap, or monster effect, send a Aqua monster from hand or field to the graveyard to negate the effect and then set that card to your field instead. So it comes up, it can give you utility for crazy blowout cards like Raigeki or Harpy's Feather Duster or Talents or Thrust or whatever you happen to need at that time. And then if it is sent to the graveyard, it puts a water monster from your graveyard back in your hand, so it infinitely cycles itself back to the extra deck. And for the one-ofs, I'm playing 1 Sky Cavalry Centuria, 1 Cat Shark, 1 number 2 Ninja Shadow Mosquito, and 1 Daigusto Phoenix. So Sky Cavalry Centuria cannot be destroyed by battle while it has an Xyz material. At the end of the damage step, if it battled an opponent's monster, return that opponent's monster to the hand. So again, very, very useful. And the fact that it can't be destroyed by battle is fantastic because you can just keep it kind of in defense as a wall for at least 2 attacks because the effect is not once per turn. Cat Shark needs 2 level 2s. All of these need at least 2 level 2s. The only one that can have more is your Mosquito. Well, it has a material originally attached to it that's water. The only time we'll do that is if it's a Paleo card. It can't be destroyed by battle. And then once per turn, as a quick effect, you can attach a material from this card, target 1 rank 4 or lower Xyz monster you control. Its attack and defense become double its original attack and defense. So again, pair that with something like your Gigantic Sprite that can make itself 3,200, and then with Cat Shark, you can make itself 6,400 because Gigantic Sprite changes its original attack and defense. Ninja Shadow Mosquito is a card that punishes your opponent for not reading carefully because this card has won me several games. So it needs 2 or more level 2 monsters, cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage from attacks involving it. All monsters your opponent controls must attack if able. And when an attack is declared, you can activate one of the following effects. 1, you can attach a material. If you do, place 1 hallucination counter on a face-up monster your opponent controls. And then monsters with a hallucination counter have their effects negated. And then the other effect is inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of 1 monster with a hallucination counter. So realistically, what you want to do is you want to put the counter on your opponent's largest monster, and then every time they swing, you just burn them for the attack of their largest monster over and over and over again. I was playing against Lightsworn recently, and I put the counter on a Judgment Dragon and just burned them for 3,000 3 times and won the game like that. A flex spot in the extra deck is Daigusto Phoenix. I'm kind of unsure about it. I'm thinking about cutting it for an IP Masquerena. But 2 level 2 monsters. Once per turn, detach an Xyz material from this card to target 1 face-up wind monster you control. This turn it can attack twice. So it can only target itself, but it's a 1,500 that it can attack twice, and suddenly you're doing 3,000 damage. And pair that with something like your Gamma Burst, suddenly you're dealing, what, 3,800 damage? Twice, so you're putting a ton of damage all at once. So it's kind of why I'm hesitant on cutting it, is because the damage comes up, and if you can use the Cat Shark and the Gamma Burst, you've just got an OTK machine in your Daigusto Phoenix. That's it for the Xyz monsters. Moving on to the Lynx. We're playing 1 copy of Spright Sprind. 2 monsters, including a rank 2 Link 2 monster. Cannot be used as Link material the turn it is Link summoned, so once it's out, it's there, but it's a really good tool to use to go into your Gigantic Sprite. You can only use 1 of the following effects of Spright Sprind per turn, and only once that turn. And what that means is you have to choose the effect to use, and that's the effect you can use for the turn. So when it's summoned, you can Foolish Burial a level 2 monster from your deck. And then if another monster is summoned while it's on the field, you can detach a material from an Xyz monster you control and return a card on the field to the hand. So let's say you're playing against Rise Zeal is a really good example for this. They normal summon one of the guys, you use the effect, put it back in their hand. I guess on special summon. So they summon one guy, they summon the other guy, you use Sprint, bounce it back to their hand, or you can even bounce the Xyz monster that they summon back to the hand. So it does give you that layer of interruption on your opponent's turn. One copy of Paleozoic I don't know how to say this. Camberorraster. We'll assume it's some kind of dinosaur. Needs 2 Paleozoic monsters, unaffected by other monsters' effects. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. You can target one set card on the spell and trap zone, send it to the graveyard, and if you do, set a Paleozoic trap directly from your deck. Very good effect. It can be activated this turn, which makes it even better because you can, set your Pacaya, activate your Pacaya, get your draw engine going. If a set card you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard instead. So it's important to know that this works on field and in grave to protect something, which comes up way more often than you would think, because you do want to keep your Paleo traps in rotation constantly. And the ones you really, really want to resolve are not the ones you really, really want in the graveyard. Then for just a few generically good cards, we're playing 1 Area, the Water Charmer, 1 Bujingi Ahashima. Again, hesitant on keeping this in. This also might become an IP Masquerena, and 1 Access Code Talker. So Area needs 2 monsters, including a water monster, so all your Paleozoics are viable. You have to remember, you get 2 locked a lot in this deck, so this might not be the most utility-focused card, but it does work in like a later stage of the game. And then it has a Charmer effect where if it's destroyed, you can add a water monster from your deck to your hand. We are playing 0 main deck water monsters that are not originally trap cards. Bujingi Ahashima needs 2 monsters with the same level to summon it, and then when it's summoned, you immediately Xyz summon using a monster from your hand and a monster from your graveyard as the materials. And then if you have an Xyz monster that it points to, and it has an effect that includes detaching a material, you can also destroy a card on the field when you activate the effect. And then the OTK Machine Access Code Talker gains 1,000 for every link rating of 1 link monster used for its summon. You can banish link monsters from your graveyard with different attributes to destroy stuff on the field. And it gets really big really fast and is a kill machine. So that is it for Paleo Spright. If you can think of an improvement to the deck, please let me know. I am trying to make this deck better and better as I go along. Make sure to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for what we come on for 2025. It's going to be a great year for Different Dimension Gaming, and we'll see you next time.